Okay, our math lesson for today is over decimals and real numbers. Turn to page 339 of your textbook, and at the bottom of the page we have the definition of what a decimal is. A decimal is a base 10 positional numeral, either positive or negative, in which there are many digits extending to the left point, called the decimal point, that represent units, tens, hundreds, and so on, and a sequence of digits on the right side of the decimal point that represent tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So, when we think of a decimal, what kind of uses do you think of? Weight is one way. And what else? Money. Money and weight are two of the ways that people use decimals, and they're two of the ways that I'm going to talk about decimals today. What kind of careers do you think use decimals? Okay, teachers do. What else? Doctors, nurses, okay, people in the medical field. What else? Engineers. And there's one more I'm thinking of. Scientists, correct. So most definitely, if you are planning on becoming a teacher, working in the medical field, an engineer, or a scientist, you are going to have to learn how to use decimals. Last week, during our fraction lesson, I showed you all how we use the squares, the strips, and the small squares to represent the fractions. Well, we can use those same manipulatives when using decimals. So if I draw 3 large squares, four strips, and 6 small squares, how can we write that in decimal form? How much is the large square worth? The large square is worth 1. What about the thin strips? They are worth 1/10 or 0.1. And the small squares, they are worth 1/100th or 0.01. This place value is in more detail on page 342 at the bottom. There's a table that shows the decimal form, the fractional form, and the power of 10 when using decimals. And make a note of this because this will come in handy during our lessons for the next couple of weeks. So back to this, we have 3 1s, 4 10s, and 6 100ths. So how will we write this in decimal form? 3.46. Because we have 3 whole units, the 4 tenths, the 4 1/10ths, and the 6 100ths. Now, our lesson today will be rounding decimals. How will we round this number? You remember, think about when we round numbers like 35. Does 35 round down to 30 or up to 40? Up to 40. That's right, because numbers 0 through 4 round down and 5 through 9 round up. So 3 4600ths, or 3.46, but that's not the correct way to say this. would round up to 3.50 or 3 5/10 or 3 1/2, 3 50/100. There are many ways to say this. Let's move on. Somebody give me a number. 782. Okay, how can we draw 782 using our squares, strips, and small squares? How many large squares will we have? 7, that's right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, how many tenths do we have? 8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 tenths and 2 hundredths, correct? So how many small squares? 2 small squares. You will be asked to illustrate decimal numbers like this on a quiz coming up. So make sure that you are taking notes. You also need to remember that note taking is part of your participation grade. So everybody should be taking notes. Some of you write more than others. Some of you only need the essentials. However you take notes is fine. Just make sure you're taking them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Whoop. And 2. Remember that the decimal goes after the integer. Why do we place the decimal where we place it? The decimal goes after the integer and before the fractional part of the number. That's right, because this 82 is 82 hundredths of a 1 unit. Let's see. Turn to page 444. So the next page. Excuse me, I forgot what page we were on. Now let's talk a little bit about money. If I said that I had $5.64 in my pocket, how will we write that down? 564. If I was rounding this number, how would we do this? It would round down to 560. That's correct. Now we talked about how the large square is 1, the strip is 1/10, and the small square is 1 100th. So let's put that into monetary form. How much is a dime worth? A dime is 1/10. That's correct. What about 1 penny? It is 1 100th. Correct. All of this information will help us on our assignment. So what I want you to do is get with a partner, or actually for this assignment, for this group assignment, we can get in groups of 4. And what I want you to do is, here, Stanley, pass these out. I want you to take a bag of this cut out money that I have made for y'all. And what I want you all to do is and here's the worksheets. I want y'all to take the amounts that are written down on the worksheet, and I want y'all to work together and paste the coins and the dollar bills that would be used to make up this number. So if your number is $7.57, then you would paste the 7 $1 bills, and then you would paste 5 dimes, and then you would paste 7 pennies. We're not using like quarters and nickels because we're only focusing on the 1/10 and 1/100th place values, and that's why we're only using the single dollar bills, the dimes, and the pennies. So everybody group together, don't fight over who gets to work with who, and let's get started on our activity. Before we begin though, I need y'all to remember that your homework assignment is going to be on page 362, numbers 1 through 10. And what it's asking you, everybody real quick, turn to page 362. What it is asking you is to take these digits that they are giving you and write them out in this long form. I've switched it up a little bit. It wanted it in expanded form, but I want y'all to grasp the visual of using the squares, unit strips, and these small squares. So I'll leave this up here on the board. It's due on Tuesday. Okay, so get with your groups. The glue is in the middle cubby over there on the shelf. Somebody go grab one of those. Y'all work together to find out the best way to do this. And let's see, whichever group wins, finishes first, will get some candy. That'll give you a little incentive to get busy. So if y'all have any questions, just raise your hand. I'll come about and ask you. I'll come by and answer it, sorry. And let's begin.